the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast, where your financial journey takes flight with David T.U. As an airline pilot and financial expert, David merges the aviation industry and wealth management to help you navigate today's complex financial skies. Each episode features expert insight, blending personal stories with essential financial strategies. We ask that you fasten your seatbelts and sit back as we prepare for takeoff. Our destination, your financial empowerment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast. I'm your host, David T.U. And today we're absolutely happy that Diana Hernandez, founder of Login Aviation Services and a dynamic force in the aviation industry, has joined us today. With a background in international aircraft sales and a deep understanding of aerospace standards and regulations, Diana brings a unique blend of global insight and operational expertise to the table. As a passionate pilot and an active member of the Fort Lauderdale chapter of Women in Aviation, Diana is not only shaping the future of aviation, but also advocating for greater diversity and inclusion across the industry. Her journey from managing aircraft component sales to finding her own aviation services company is a story of vision, resilience, and purpose. In today's episode, we'll explore Diana's path into aviation, entrepreneurship, and the evolving landscape of aviation services, and how she has been using her platform to uplift others in the field. So welcome, Diana.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you for inviting me over. It's such a great privilege to be here, but also kind of assume myself all the stuff that you have said. Hey, great introduction. And I'm here to help. I can be of service to anybody, and I'm here to listen to this.
Fantastic. Well, we're really glad that you're on board today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in aviation?
Hey, it all started back in New York. I wanted to start my whole life and career in New York. Hey, life throw you some balls and down to the curve, and we have to take care of it. I started doing international business in the economics industry. The crisis hit back in 2008, and then I got a business opportunity down in Florida for an aviation career, and all started from there. I got hired, and things went out spinning all the way high, and I'm here.
Fantastic.
After so many years, 20 years now.
Oh, 20 years. Okay. So let's first talk, because everybody's going to be interested in knowing this. What inspired you to become a pilot? And was there a defining moment or experience that led you down this path?
Well, aviation, it is such an involving career. You get to have deep in conversations. You get to know the goods and the bads. You lose some friends in between just because of accidents. So we get to hear a lot of stuff. So just as it's exciting, you also want to understand what everything goes behind an aircraft, all behind the systems. So when I started working in aviation, I started developing a department which is called aircraft parts rotable.
Okay.
And that involves a lot into the maintenance side of it. Having the maintenance side of it and be able to understand all the systems, you read a lot of manuals. Just as you read the manuals, you get deep into it, you get excited, you get passionate, you get to know how an aircraft gets developed. So from that process that was developed on the aircraft parts rotable, I move into aircraft modification. Now we are modifying an aircraft, something that it was developed from a blueprint, having up in the air. And now after the aircraft has been so many years in service, there is a company, group of people that want to have some kind of modification to the aircraft.
Sure.
And now it comes to, wow, now I want to become a pilot just because all the background that I have. So I had the resources, I had the knowledge, and I had the supporting group and network that we have around. So my aviation career is started on the maintenance side of it. And right after that, I gotta get to flying. And it was right after I got into the cockpit and having my solo flight, it was amazing. It haven't stopped from there. I'm still flying. I still enjoy it.
what licenses have you achieved so far in flying?
Well, private pilot, it was the one that it started just to have the basic knowledge of it. I didn't
Sure.
know that I wanted to continue on.
Mhm.
And right now we are into the instrument rated. And
Okay.
from the instrument rated, it really depends if I want to go into own my own aircraft and have it in multi and move from there. I go along as the opportunity shows, as the new things come alive and be able to develop from there. So I do aviation, that's my part of the business, but flying is a passion. So I go as long as the opportunities arrive.
What's been one of the most memorable flight that you've ever taken, personally or professionally? My guess is perhaps your solo.
Well, that was a very good one. Obviously, that's any pilot can tell you the way they felt, the color of the aircraft, the tail number that they solo. We all have it written in our memory. And so we'll never forget that. But no, we have been into a lot of flight testing. So those are being
Ah,
very challenging. You get to
okay.
know a lot of that. When it comes to delivery flights, we also go into the delivery flights and we
Ah,
get to have those one-on-one conversations. You get to sit in the front and the back, get to know all the details that it comes as having a passenger experience now, the new aircraft that they're on board. It was a flight from here from Florida down to Marathon, which is only 45 minutes. So
right.
it was a Saturday morning. I just wanted to go out flying, took off, got to the restaurant. And it's just a very particular restaurant that is sitting on a like a three-story level restaurant. So you get to see, breathe, enjoy. But that day there were a lot of dolphins for some reason. So you get to eat, breeze, sunny, blue sky, and get to enjoy some dolphins around. Hop on the aircraft again and fly back home. Very simple, but still down to my memory. It was just a perfect Saturday morning.
The Dolphins were there to invite you and to welcome you, I'm sure.
Uh, they were very welcome to my fly as well.
Good, good. So aviation can be a very male-dominated space. What challenges have you faced as a woman in this industry, and how do you attempt to overcome it?
I would say that the challenges, it comes from the very beginning. Although you get to dance with the flow, you get to
Oh,
just enjoy it, show that you know what you know, and also indicate that there are certain things that we don't all have the answer, regardless of the gender, right? At the very beginning, I can tell you that I stumble a lot just because you're into the learning curve. You also need to indicate that you get to read a lot, you get to go into the manuals and familiarize yourself for whatever the problem is. When I started, it was all into get to find out what the system is and find out the map to understand what is wrong with such particular. It was a very particular situation when I was dealing with the older gentleman, and he didn't want to deal with me just because I was a female. And I just challenged him and say, listen, let's find out an opportunity. Let me find out if I know what you're trying to find out. And if I don't know it, I definitely will call my manager. And it was a sweet deal of a conversation just because it was just a normal conversation. And it's an older gentleman. They don't want to deal with this. And it came out that from that point, I showed him that I was into getting to know what he wanted and find out a solution for him. Obviously, we went through that. And from that point on, I can remember that guy and we can still say hello after so many years. So it's been such a wonderful experience. And it's a matter of getting to know. We're in a learning had all the time. It's aviation. Every time that we have a accident, like we have seen it at the beginning of this year,
yes.
those are study cases. So we don't finish our learning. We just find out what happened in Pennsylvania. I guess with the case of Washington crash, we have an idea of what would it could have happened. But in the case of the one in Pennsylvania, it's I'm just waiting for the NTSB to give us some kind of report to read from that. So it's not only finding out the aircraft that it was designed and what it's meant to do, but it also how the human factor gets involved into that and weather as well.
Absolutely. You've worn many different hats in the aviation world. What motivated you to start your own business, and how did Login Aviation Services come to life? If you could give us a little bit of the background and then tell us how how you gave birth to Login Aviation.
Great question. It's a great question. I gotta say, it's from deep from my heart. It was never meant for me to open up the company and establish such a great responsibility that, like you said, I wear a lot of hats, but as time go along, it gets easier. But to answer your question directly, it was a leap of faith. It
Okay.
was with my sister that we all wanted to open up a company that it will be in different countries. So Login Aviation, it is start logistics, LO Logistics Incorporated.
Gotcha. Okay.
So at that point, it comes into my sister involved or the family involved, and it was the timing. Hey, let's find out and do this.
Okay.
So we didn't know where to start, we didn't know where to end, but it became a leap of faith. Let's get to it because just as aviation is a great industry, and if anything will go wrong, I just go back and work for another those great companies, just I have done it in the past. So why not? Let's take a leap of faith and let's go. So this year we're turning our 10-year anniversary,
Okay.
and probably towards the end of the year we're planning to do something for a lot of customers and suppliers, and we'll see.
Okay. So for those that are unfamiliar with Logan Aviation, can you share what services your company currently offers and what it has offered in the past? You mentioned a little
Okay.
bit of it, specialized in making aircraft modifications. If you could give maybe one or two possibly examples of that, it would really be helpful for the people that are listening or viewing this.
Got it. Okay, good. So the services that we currently provide, mainly there are, I would say three. One of them is the aircraft parts distribution. And we do offer that through our website. It's at a platform base. And we also have another internal networks such as Parspace, ILS, and other entities that we work with. So in order for somebody that needs a part for a particular aircraft, they just go to the website or to those platforms.
Okay.
That's one of the services. The other services that we are developing is the aircraft sales. And just this, and we specialize only on fixed wing just
Okay.
because there's different monsters out there, like you know it. So we only try to specialize ourselves just to serve better our customers or our end user. The emphasis that we try to put out there is the matter of know your aircraft, and no matter if you sit in the back just to enjoy it as a passenger, know your aircraft, know the what it comes to it, what the details are at,
Okay.
how flying international, how taxes strategies you can play with your company just to have those deals. Don't leave any deals on the table.
Okay.
For some reason, if you have the capacity to have an aircraft, I'm sure you probably have the capacity to educate yourself and find out how an aircraft is being very helpful. So that's the second part of it.
Okay.
And the third part of it is the aircraft management. And
Okay.
what we do on that is that for those smaller operations that there is a company or it's a family that they don't want to deal with anything that it comes with aircraft details, maintenance, paperwork, regulations, they just put it up to an aircraft management company, which is part of what we're doing right now, developing that area where you just hand over the aircraft keys and we keep an eye on all those details. So when it comes to time for an end user to hop up in the aircraft and fly, it's just a matter of when do you want it, how do you want it, and where you going. If you're flying within the US, it's so simple. But when it comes to flying international, we have to follow some rules. So what we're trying to do with the department itself is to alleviate that pressure that it comes with having and owning an aircraft because there's
Sure.
some regulations out there.
Sure. Do you help private ownership owners of airplanes in terms of crewing them as well? Finding pilots to fly on their behalf, or just aircraft management?
I would say aircraft management and the whole network itself. What we want to emphasize on is that experience. So if we don't have, let's say that it's a first time buyer of an aircraft and there's not a crew involved, what we're trying to find out is bring a crew, and not bringing ourselves, is just recommending and crew that it will come in with the ratings that they need for that particular aircraft,
I see.
because that way they will alleviate the part of a getting used to the new cockpit, getting used to this aircraft. But just in case, let's say that you have a mid-sized cabin aircraft and the pilot of the crew is already had the training, had the currency, and is competent to fly, that's a perfect fit for the new aircraft, for the new buyer. Because in that case, that new owner wants to rely on the crew to give some kind of a peace of mind, because that pilot of that crew, they know what they're doing in terms of where do I need to fly, and what regulations do they fall into based on the operation.
So aviation is a fast-paced business industry, and it's, of course, very competitive. What have been some of your biggest challenges as an aviation entrepreneur that you could share with us?
The challenges, the fast pace, I agree with that.
Okay.
We move fast, but not in the terms of regulations.
Okay.
So usually we do have a lot of regulations that they fall into that gray area.
Okay.
But this is what has worked for me, and I 100% recommend reach out to your regulation authority and have a conversation regarding whatever the regulation is, because they do play a big role when you're trying to make decisions.
Sure.
So contact the FAA and find out what this is and how you guys can work based on the operation. If I gotta say, one of the challenges, part of it, is when we fall into that gray area. Reach out with that call, they're very helpful.
Okay. So you mentioned FAA, you work with compliance with the FAA. Obviously, it has to do with safety and, of course, international and global standards. How do you ensure the parts and services that you offer meet the highest quality of the standards according to regulations?
Being out there with the new compliances, being out there and find out what the newest regulations and how all in terms fall in together. Regulations don't change as fast as we wanted them, especially now that we have so new technology coming on board. But when it comes to compliance and when it comes to having those regulations implemented, just be out there, find out what's happening, and get in contact with people. That way they know how do they comply with those things, because at the end of the day, we are operators all around the world. We are a network of people trying to solve the problem, trying to get the aviation moving forward instead of holding it back. Because hey, we all want to fly. We want to be from place to A to B in a shorter amount of time.
Absolutely.
So hey, just be out there.
Okay. That sounds like a very common sense approach. Who are your main clients, or what are your target market clients, whether it's private aircraft owners or would it be perhaps commercial operators? Can you give us a little bit of background of your target market, or who your ideal client that you would love to be serving?
Our main client base, they are family and they are corporations, where a family or a small group of corporations that they work, and mainly those are Part 91. So they're private operations. They don't fall into any kind of commercial regulations. Although on the one of the departments that we serve, which is the aircraft part, on that area, we do see cargo. We see Part 135s, and we see flight schools. But the majority of our clientele, they're Part 91, meaning that an individual, a family, or a corporation, they have their own aircraft and they do their flights at any time, wherever they want, whenever they meet certain regulations, whether they're flying at. So our main clientele, they're Part 91 operations, which is business jets.
All right. So you recently expanded into private jet sales, which is exciting. What led you to add that extra service into Logan Aviation?
Well, recent, if we want to call it recent, this will be our third year
Okay.
going into that sector.
Yes.
And it's been great. The way we have developed our departments to serve the clients is based on those needs. So it's a matter of saying, where do we fit to serve those customers or to serve that need? And that's where we at. And it's been very rewarding. It's been new challenges on the way, but at the same time, like I said, you just learn to dance.
So you spoke earlier that you provide services mainly to fixed wing aircraft, no rotor wings. Are you dealing on the jet side? Are you dealing with the turboprops? I see right in the background there, you have a PC-12 in the back as a model there. Do you deal in the turboprop space, the King Airs? Do you work in the piston space, single and multi-engine space? Tell me a little bit about the airplanes that you provide services for.
Correct. Like I said, between the aircraft parts
Mhm.
distribution and the aircraft sale, those two combine a variety of aircraft.
Okay.
So in the space of those two, we do serve turboprop, piston, and business jet. And they all have their own, I would say, good and bad, pros and
Yeah.
cons,
Challenges. Yeah,
and
sure.
their own challenges too. So when we dealing with a business jet, there is a lot of regulations, a lot of tax strategies that we got to play with, a lot of legality jurisdiction that we got to go onto it. When it comes to the piston or the turboprop, is basically getting the aircraft flying.
Okay.
Getting the maintenance, getting those modifications that they need to based on the operations, because
Yes.
we have air ambulance especially. So
Ah.
that PC-12 that you see in the back
Mhm.
is one of the very first deals that we made. And whenever we have the time, we customize each model aircraft before we deliver an aircraft. So we try to give it out as a part of our closing deal to the end user.
Okay.
So we try to keep that as a memory item. So that to me is one of the memory items for me to keep, and the end user also have their own.
I see. So let's talk about that. For someone who is considering purchasing their first airplane or purchasing their first jet or turboprop, what advice would you offer this potential buyer?
Advice: make sure that they have done their homework
Okay.
before a shiny aircraft shows up through a friend.
Ah, all right. Do their homework. Can you
Yes.
elaborate a little bit more on the homework side?
Do the homework, and what I mean by that
Yeah.
is just having an aircraft. Let me put it in best word. When you get to the level of having an aircraft, it's because you have achieved some kind of success in
Sure.
your career or in your family. So it becomes very challenging. And I'll give you a very simple scenario.
Please.
Purchasing an aircraft, let's say that you purchase an aircraft for $500,000, right? But let's say that the operational cost for that aircraft in a year, let's put it in best numbers world,
Okay.
200,000,
Okay.
right? So you buy the aircraft for 500, have an operational cost of 200, meaning that for the long time of years, you're gonna have $200,000 aside for you to use your aircraft the way you wanted it to, right?
Operation. Yes.
Operational cost, for better word. Now, when it comes to the time that there is some kind of a case study that they find out that this aircraft needs to have a piece of a wing to remove it, replace it back up, just to have that piece removed back on, we're talking about probably another $100,000.
Sure.
So you want to have the cash flow to any surprises that the aviation or having the aircraft in operation will come up.
Okay.
And not everybody knows that. And the older the aircraft, they have gone through the test of time.
Okay.
So although when it comes to a new aircraft, like this year and the next two following years, we're going to have really new aircraft up in the market, meaning that those aircraft, even though they're new, they still need to go through that test of time.
Okay.
So any new aircraft, you got to have the cash flow to anticipate any of the surprises.
Okay.
And for those older aircraft, just have that extra cash flow just in case that any of that surprise will come on board, because that could ground the aircraft. And for you to have maybe an opportunity, hey, let's sell the aircraft for 300,000, because by the time that the aircraft had depreciated, you had to come out with $100,000 to fix the problem, but you also have an offer to sell it out to 300,000. So it's just a matter of what usage do you have for the aircraft. So just be prepared, do your homework, how much you have, how many resources do you get, and don't go buy shiny objects out there.
All right. Sounds good. How do you see private jet market evolve in the next several years?
Private jet, the numbers shows what I'm saying.
Okay.
And the 2024 statistics show that only on business jets, there were delivered 764, just to be very precise, because I was just looking at those numbers as part of my homework. So 764 were manufactured around the world, just business jets. 70% of those aircraft were delivered within the US.
Oh, wow.
So we see that if we go back 10 years later, that was less. That was a lot less. But now that we have talking about, we're getting into this tariff idea that everybody is freaking out, we got to find out how all this is going to shape the future of business aviation.
Okay.
Because as you saying, these are key players, whoever are buying those aircraft, they do have commodities flowing around the world.
Do you have an expectation that it will evolve to higher numbers of deliveries in the next few years, or do you think it will come down or perhaps be level and be around the similar numbers that we are today?
Well, in the last 2 weeks, we have seen a stagnation on the industry, just
okay.
because there's a lot of rumors out there of what could happen.
Okay.
So if you're buying a new aircraft right now, buy it now, get it,
Okay.
fly it now,
Okay.
because the numbers are showing that it will probably will stay flat or it will go down a little bit. We still need to retain that cash flow for any of that extra cost that they're going to come into operation. And we're not talking about business or aviation operations, any kind of operation in the world.
Okay, fair enough. You mentioned earlier on the podcast here that you guys are involved in promoting aircraft modifications. And so, what trends or innovations in this particular space are you most excited about in terms of doing modifications? Can you share with us one or two examples of what people are looking to do in terms of modification?
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. So right now, like I say, when I first started my career, it all started in the maintenance side of it. So I see the development of how the modifications are being done in the aircraft. Right now, the way that we get involved with any aircraft modification is by the time that we're delivering the aircraft. So
Okay.
we deliver pre-modification or post-modification, but that goes into the kind of the agreement of purchasing the aircraft.
Okay.
But we in particular, as Login Aviation, we don't touch the aircraft. We
Oh,
just hire different entities to do those modifications,
I
just to be
see.
clear on that.
Okay.
But the trends that we have seen so far, mainly in the last, I would say 5 years, is that every aircraft must have internet. They must have internet,
Gotta
right?
stay connected.
Um,
Yeah, everybody wants to stay connected. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes for a 30-minute flight, having an internet, it could be a deal breaking.
Uh,
And I have seen it in Part 135.
yes.
It's part of the now common standard items. The other items that I had seen is that even though we do have a lot of aircraft up in the air that they're developed from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, aircraft that are very safe. So as long as you keep the maintenance records and you keep them intact for what the manufacturer is calling out, they go for years. So, and we all trying to develop this passenger experience. When you walk into a cabin, you want to see fresh light, you want to see blue skies, you want to see air conditioning crispy, some kind of that environment. So when you walk into a 1980 aircraft, you want to make sure that those lights, they're not yellow. They need to be blue. They need
Got
to be
it.
color sensitive. So
Sure.
I would say internet and lighting of the aircraft is important right now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Um, in a constant evolving space like aviation, how do you stay on top of the trends and the developments of all these moving parts?
Being on the conferences, the
Right.
year conferences around the world, they do bring a lot of insights from different companies, from different developments.
Okay.
Sometimes it's material, sometimes it's services, software. So being out there and speaking with the suppliers
Absolutely.
and manufacturers, they do work. They do have their sense of let's bring the whole movement together. FAA don't move as fast as we want to, but we also understand why. It
Sure.
is safety involved. So whenever they do some kind of regulation modification, they just want to make sure that everybody is on board. So when now we're talking about the whole point of new technology, they're very delicate on that area.
Okay.
So what they have done, they indicated new technology, put it under the SFAR, the Special Federal Aviation Regulation. So any kind of new development, new technology that you want to put in, just go into that. They have opened up doors to go faster on that arena of any technology. So that's a good thing, I guess. And we have seen everything that has happened from that on. I would say from 2020, but the last year has been more open doors from the FAA to have those meaningful conversations, new technology on board.
Fantastic. At the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned that you're actively involved in women in aviation. Why is that work important to you, and what changes do you hope to see in terms of representation and support in this particular industry with women in aviation?
Well, like we all know it, the aviation is a very male dominated industry.
Sure.
And I don't vouch for having one gender or the other.
Okay.
But what I'm seeing is just that, just as any industry, open up doors for anybody to see aviation.
Okay.
And for what I have seen, corporation for the being exclusion of everything is just being in aviation is not only being a pilot. There's so much of a arena for anybody to pick from. Like you say, you have aviation attorneys, you have medical, you have maintenance, you have drawings. There's so much into it. It's just a matter of getting out there and getting to the aviation arena. But if I can be a point of contact to open anybody that door for somebody to get into the aviation, obviously I'm going to be there. So my whole point of being part of the Women in Aviation in the chapter of Fort Lauderdale is being out there, reaching out and giving that helping hand for whoever is coming in.
So for young women, or really anyone for that matter, interested in becoming more involved in aviation, whether it's piloting or in the aviation industry, what would you provide in terms of your recommendation for the top 3 pieces of advice for people that are going into these, that are young, youthful, and aspire to become an aviation entrepreneur like yourself, a pilot, or anything else for that matter?
The advice for me, for what I would say, is just go out there and reach out, get to those tours that they give out every year, go to the airport, go to the aircraft, get on an aircraft, flying out there. There's tons of I would say charities, there's tons of activities out there that they do it for free just because of a lot of company sponsor those ideas to bring new people on board. They do annual, and it's around the world. It's not only in this chapter. They do it in certain areas, wherever there's more population, because there's more resources.
Sure.
So from the middle school years, they do have those programs because the earlier that you start to expose people to certain areas, they get more assertive to what they want before they graduate from high school years. So
Okay.
middle school, high schoolers, by that time, they should have an idea where do they want to go? If they want to stay into the maintenance side of an aircraft, into the development, into the medical career, into numbers, lawyers, whatever the case is. So being out there and speak, because like in the group of Fort Lauderdale, we do have different, we have pilot, we have maintenance, we have dispatchers, we have lawyers, we have medicals. So it's out there. It's just a matter of the younger having those kids out there to expose on the area of aviation industry, the better they make the decision.
Fantastic. Are there any exciting projects or goals that are on the horizon at this time?
Okay, good that you ask. However, right now we're currently into a new development,
Okay.
into a new certification. Although just because the lawyer and jurisdiction and something that is going on, I'm not able to disclose it at
Okay,
this time,
fair enough.
just because we're liable for it.
Okay.
But at this time, obviously, it is very exciting.
When you are able to tell us more about it, we would love to hear about that. Finally, here, how can our listeners and viewers connect with you and learn more about your company and your work and the services that you provide?
It just having this video out there and speaking for what we do is one of the things that you get to know more about what we do, what we serve, and our emphasis where we at,
Okay.
the social media platforms
Okay.
and YouTube
All right.
channels.
Fantastic. So if you could please tell us what the website is and what your email is, and if there's a contact info, and then the social media profiles or the platforms that you're on. That we
Sure.
can go on.
So on the website is www.loginsvc.com.
Okay.
And that we're going to put probably a label so that way you have
Yep,
it.
exactly. It'll be at the bottom of the screen here.
Correct. And my email is pretty simple. It's Diana, Diana, at loginsvc.com.
Okay.
Our main phone number for the company is 954-282-1901. And if any
Fantastic.
questions, just reach out to us and we'll be able to answer any questions you might have.
And for those viewers that are watching this on YouTube or any other platforms, you'll be able to see that at the bottom of your screen. And so for now, I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast. A very, very special thank you to Diana Hernandez for sharing her remarkable journey and her commitment to innovation and inclusivity in aviation. And again, to connect with Diana and learn about Login Aviation, please make sure to check the links in our show notes. My name is David Yu, airline pilot, founder, and wealth advisor of DTY Wealth Planning Solutions. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with fellow aviation professionals and entrepreneurs looking to take flight in their careers. Until next time, stay the course, think strategically, and continue building your wealth with confidence and purpose.